Alright, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I am in a local woodland for a hot tent camp. The weather is very dreary, it's cold, it's wet, it's supposed to be on and off rain pretty much all afternoon and all evening into tomorrow morning. So this is the absolute perfect conditions for a hot tent camp. So I'm really excited for it, but it's going to take a while before I can get nice and cozy in the tent. So I'm going to go ahead and get the tent set up here. I think I found a nice spot, and then we have a lot of wood prep to do. I'll be using a hot tent that's actually a tunnel tent, so it's actually a little bit longer than the tents I normally use. So I do need a long flat space, but I was able to find a nice flat area. So I think I'm going to pitch it here along this kind of little hill. And then as you can see, there's tons of down wood everywhere. So I shouldn't have too much of an issue finding wood tonight. I'm excited. Let's get started. Nice. Look at all that space inside. It's gonna be cozy. This is different. So I've already got the inner tent attached, so it's super fast to set up all in one pitch. Really like it. Let's move in. Not my favorite style of door, the rainbow doors that sit on the ground in front of you, because I always find I trip over them and stuff. So this tent's called the Pomali Open Vista. It's basically their updated version of the locomotive tent, which I've never tried, but I've always really wanted to try that one. This one's pretty cool because it has a slightly extended vestibule, and it has a trick up its sleeve, which I'll show you now. So it actually has two things that you guy out here. And if you remove one of them, the top one, and unzip it, and you can completely roll back the fly, and you get a really cool view from the inside of the tent, regardless of the weather. You can keep it open when it's raining because there's so much space between the outer part and the inner tent. Super cool. This would be great in the summer if you want to zip it off completely, but still get a lot of breathability and keep the bugs out, which is really cool. But more importantly, and the thing I like about my other two Pomali tents is it's really great for temperature regulation, which is what I'll probably need tonight because I don't think it's supposed to dip below freezing. So this will be nice to vent out some of the excess heat. So this stove's a little bit different than the one I've been using for the past year. It's actually extended upward, so it actually has a bigger chamber for burning and also a bigger glass panel, so it's going to be really cozy. I actually plan on using this stove with my large X-Dome 4 Pro tent, which I used around this time last year. I'll link that video up here. This will be much better suited for that tent because it's bigger, but I was excited to try it, so I'm going to use it in this tent even though it's smaller and probably doesn't need a stove this big. As you can see, it still packs down nice and small, though my previous one packs down to about this big. This one just has a slightly bigger piece, but the benefit of that is it gives you a much bigger stove and a much bigger viewing area, both in the front and the sides. So my other stove's about this big. This gives you this extra bit up top, which is really cool. It has some upgrades as well. So this actually keeps the flue open so you don't accidentally block it when you're putting in wood. It's not exactly even ground in here, so I may have to use some sticks to kind of even it out. You use the gloves that comes with the stove, just because it has these little rubber bits, which just makes it a little bit easier to roll. I'm actually resetting what I'm doing real quick. There's a bit of a breeze, and this pipe's a bit longer than I would normally like it for this size of tent. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some guy lines to the top spark arrestor just to stabilize it. So it's super simple. The stove comes with these little clips, and you can actually just use it to attach the guy line, and they hold pretty steady in there. So wet in here. I'm gonna go ahead and get my sit pad out. So I have a little bit of a porch in the vestibule. Go ahead and get my saw as well. So I'm gonna need to start processing wood pretty soon here. All right, so there it is, all set up. Got the stove in, so this pipe's quite a bit longer than I would normally use for a tent this size, but I'm planning to use this for my huge 4-person dome tent, which needs a much larger pipe, so I'm not going to cut this one because this one's actually a bit thicker in diameter as well, but I just wanted to give it a try tonight. So as you can see, it's a tunnel tent. It has this huge portion in the front here for the stove, and you could store gear or wood in the back, and it's got the ventilation, and then on this side, you have your 2-person inner tent. Really nice, really taut. It's got venting in the back here, and then there's a vent in the back of the inner tent as well. Really cool tent, and I like that it's got both sides you can open up. So depending on your location, you can have the door open on the right or left, which is pretty nice. I only have about an hour before sunset, so I do need to get a move on so I can go ahead and collect enough wood. Luckily, if you look behind me there's actually wood right behind the tent, so that actually should do me pretty good for a good portion of the night, and then I'll look around to find another big piece. All right, let's cut some wood. All right, gloves, saw. Go ahead and get my belt knife on. So like I said, I didn't have to go very far from the tent at all. There's a nice downed branch here. Pretty solid as well. And then if you look a little bit further, there's another big down branch as well. So if I cut all that up, it should be plenty for tonight. All right, so this is a pretty big branch. It's off the ground. It looks pretty solid. So I'm gonna start with this one. That's perfect. I won't even have to split these rounds. Super hard wood, and they're dry on the inside, and the outside will just dry off next to the stove. So I gotta cut a few rounds of this. All right, I'm not gonna bore you with all this cutting because there's gonna be quite a bit of it. So I'll get back with you guys as soon as I think I have enough for tonight. Whew. I was actually starting to get a bit cold, but what's that old adage? Cutting wood warms you twice, once while you're cutting it, and then when you burn it. Ugh, I think I've almost got enough though. I'm gonna do this big branch and then I'll take it back to the tent and I'll have a better idea once it's next to the stove. Oh, I've got a good bit. I've got some big rounds on the bottom here. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's actually starting to rain. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this in the tent as quickly as I can. Well, I almost finished before the rain started. So I do have a few big pieces that I'll need to still cut up with the axe, but I can probably do that in the vestibule if I need to. But I also want to run and go get some kindling. I passed some birch trees on the way in, and that'll just help a lot, especially with a little bit of damp wood. Whew, good timing. I had to put the camera in. A quick, heavier shower came through real quick. Got some of the wood wet, but it should be okay. This will make starting the fire so easy, even with wet wood, so I'm going to get plenty of it. Alright, I think I'll have enough. I'll still have to chop up some of these pieces, but the rain's picking up a bit again. So if I have to do it, I'll do it later in the vestibule. I just got to break up some of the kindling. I'm a little worried with all the damp wood, but I'll start with my dry pieces and then hopefully that'll kind of dry everything else out enough that's damp to then start burning. I'm gonna go ahead, get situated, then we're gonna get the fire going. It took a bit more work than last hot tent camp, to be honest with you. But I do have some decent sized pieces. I just got to make sure I get the fire going hot right away so I can start drying some of that stuff out. And then I got to use the pieces wisely, the drier ones first. But I should be fine. I've got some big dry pieces. I like this tent. I love the entranceway and the vestibule. The only thing is, I don't know if you guys can tell on camera, it's a little short. Much shorter than my other hot tents. If I sit on my butt, I'm just touching the inner. As soon as I go in at all, I'm touching. So I kind of think I made a mistake doing the two-person version of this because it's fine width-wise, but I would not sleep two people in this tent. So if you're interested in either the locomotive or this one, the open vista, I would definitely go up a size to the three-person version because you actually get a little bit more head height as well. And that's actually the thing I probably need the most in this tent because I'm kind of having to slouch a bit, but it's okay in the vestibule. But in the inner tent, it's a little tight. So as you can see, yeah, I'm touching the top pretty good here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get organized a bit. Then we're gonna get the fire started and start thinking about dinner. I'm getting quite the breeze from this side of the tent, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this door and leave this one open on the other side. Oh yeah, much better. Oh man. Just need to start strategically placing some of these pieces next to the stove just to start drying them off so I can put some of the bigger pieces in. Alright, well it is now getting toasty. I would open this door just to get a nice cross breeze so it doesn't get too hot. However, the breeze is pretty cold, and so this is providing a nice block for me. I've got this door by the camera completely open, and then I have the mesh at the front of the vestibule completely open. So it's warm, but it's actually comfortable. I think I'll be fine in just this. So it's only 5:40. Sundown was at 5:15. Before I start cooking, I don't want to have to fool with the fire at all, so I'm just going to keep tending to the fire. I am going to take the time and split up some more pieces of wood and then let this burn down and get a really good coal bed. And then once I'm comfortable with it continuing to burn regardless of how damp the pieces I put in, then we'll go ahead and start cooking. Alright, so tonight I'm going to be making Tuscan salmon. This is a really good salmon dish and a cream sauce, and I've got some bread to dip in the sauce. Really like this one. I've actually made this dish around 2 years ago on a hot tent camp, but Valentine's Day is actually this coming Friday, and this happens to be my wife's favorite dish of all the things that I make. So I'm going to dedicate this one to her. Let's get started. Olive oil froze.
So there it is, Tuscan salmon. Really tasty dish. Like I said, it's one of my wife's favorites. And the best part, oh man, the salmon's good, but a little bread, you take that and just dip it in the sauce. That's the best part. So the Tuscan salmon will be on my website, goingsoloutdoors.com. So if you're interested in making it, go ahead and give it a shot. I highly recommend this dish. Very good. Super simple. Really tasty, and it's easy to make it. If you have a big enough pan, it's easy to make a lot of it for a group of people. All right, well, it looks like the fire is burning extremely well now. So I'm gonna go ahead, stoke the fire up, eat my meal, and I'll get back with you guys in just a little bit. Alright, all done with dinner. I just went out to pee. The rains have stopped. Really enjoying this space in here. All these pieces are really drying well. Quite warm in here, especially up here. Just to give you an idea of how warm it is in this tent with both doors closed, but I still have the entire front of the tent, which is mesh, completely open. It's currently 41 degrees Celsius with only 30% humidity, so it is very nice and warm and dry. For those of you that use Fahrenheit, 106. So that's the temperature head height, which is coming from this little device here, which is a Bluetooth thermometer. So it's warm, very warm. It's not that cold out tonight. I want to say it's about 5 degrees Celsius. I'll put the thermometer outside, but it will drop to almost freezing tonight, but it's not going to quite get below freezing, especially in the woodland here. Compared to my other hot tents, this one I think definitely, because of its low profile, if it was super cold out, this would be incredible. The temperatures you could probably get in here. And I have the stove turned down pretty low as well, so pretty neat. I'm definitely cramped with the head height. Like I said, I think the 3-person tent would have been better for me just because I believe it's a bit taller. But because of the low profile of this tent and the tunnel design, it's really distributing the heat throughout the tent really nicely, which is kind of cool compared to my other tents. Yeah, pretty neat. I did bring a beer tonight. This is Northern Monk Heathen IPA. I've had this many times. It's a good one. Cheers, guys. Oh, it's good to be back out, especially in a hot tent. These are always cozy. It's a ton of work cutting all that wood, but once it's done, it is by far one of the most relaxing ways to camp, by the fire, especially if you like camping with a campfire. And I don't get to do that in the mountains, so it's nice to be in a woodland either by a campfire or with a wood stove, which is even more convenient because you don't have to deal with the fire going out or smoking or anything like that. It's all contained and super efficient. Really like the stove too. That extra bit of height actually makes a massive difference in the size of wood you can actually put in the stove. So I'm not having to feed it as often. I can just put in big chunks and it lasts for quite a while. I'm using my Nemo pad, but I actually probably should have brought the Zen Bivy pad instead, just because the ground's not crazy cold, and that pad's actually a bit more comfortable than this pad. Alright, bed's all set up. Just a temperature update. Now that I've have that door kind of cracked halfway, it is 90 90 degrees Fahrenheit, sorry, and 32 degrees Celsius. Talk about camping very comfortably in the winter. It's warmer in this tent than I can get it in our house. This stove is super efficient, and I am not feeding it very much at all, and I have it kind of damped down halfway, and it's just purring along, so this is really great. I wouldn't have thought that, I don't know, maybe 4 inches, maybe a little bit more of height would make such a big difference. It's actually making a big difference. Alright, in any case, I'm going to just go ahead. I'm probably going to lay in bed, maybe read my book for a little bit. I still haven't finished my beer, so do that and just hang out by the fire. I'll probably get back to you right before bed. Alright guys, I think I'm going to head to bed. I've just been watching the fire. Super impressed with this new stove. Very excited to use it in the larger X4 Pro. That giant dome hot tent that I used last year, actually around this time. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up here. But this bigger stove would be absolutely perfect for that tent. I'm probably going to stoke the fire one more time before I go to bed. So I'm going to put some of the bigger rounds in, damper it down, and see how long it lasts. And then I'm just going to kind of lay here and watch the fire die down, because I'm not going to actually keep the fire going when I go to sleep. I'm just going to enjoy that without the camera. And I will see you guys in the morning.
Good morning. It's gotten quite cold in here. Let's get the fire started. So before going to bed, I chopped up a bunch of small bits. Kindling, super dry, so that should make it really easy. And I got tons of birch, so. Always bring a Trangia. Worst case scenario, if something happens with the stove, there's enough fuel in this to make my meal and one coffee with a stand for it, so that's always a nice backup to have. Oh, it's nice to have some heat here again. So, it is currently 7:05 a.m. Sunrise is at 7:27. I always like to get up right before sunrise when I'm on a camp, just so I can see the first light. Not that I'm really going to get to see much. I don't know if you can hear, but it's actually raining, or it started to rain as soon as I started to make the coffee and got up. It's not too heavy, but it is nice to be in here with the fire going now. It's definitely going to make me a little slower getting out of the tent, though. Did pretty good on the wood last night. You can see I have a few bigger pieces left. A couple of these pieces are actually probably too big to get into the stove. I could have done them last night, but I just let the fire die down so I can go to sleep. And then I have a bunch more kindling, so I'll probably just throw this on this morning just because it'll be easy to burn. And then I'll maybe try to stash that somewhere. Just gonna go ahead and start packing up while my coffee finishes. The ground was super uneven in this spot. I didn't realize it until I laid down, so I had to put my puffy and a few other bits like my jacket and stuff underneath the sleeping pad just to kind of even it out last night. But once I did, I was able to get it perfectly flat. Had a really, really good night's sleep. I've been really enjoying being able to sleep like I do at home. Cheers, guys. Oh, better bring the camera back in. It's unfortunate it's raining now. I prefer the rain to come before I have to pack up. Oh well. At least I can have the doors open and still enjoy the morning. Alright, I'm gonna finish my coffee. Then I still gotta finish getting packed up. And then hopefully the rain dies down enough that it's not too bad packing up. It's not hard right now, but it'd be nice to kind of put away the stove and not have it get soaked. Well, definitely not the ideal morning, but at least it wasn't raining when I put up the tent yesterday. It's a beautiful woodland. I really like coming to this one because, as you can see, unlike some of the woodlands I go to, it'll just be rotting leaf litter around this time of the year. This one actually has quite a bit of grass, which is nice, so I can put the tent on that, although it did get a little muddy in the vestibule last night. For the most part, the grass is kind of nice to walk through instead of walking through mud. I just created another nice little cache of wood. It'll get damp, but underneath should stay dry, so if I'm in this area again, I should be able to try to use that wood.
decent amount of ash. It's still pretty warm too, so just the rest of my water on it. Time for the tent. I really love it when tent companies use big stuff sacks. When companies make the bags super tiny, they're not saving that much weight in fabric. By making it big though, it just makes it so much easier, especially on a day like this where it's raining and I'm not taking the time to fold it nice and neat. I can still stuff everything in and then it's fine. You don't have to include compression straps, they're nice, but it's just awesome to be able to get it in easily and not fumble with trying to fit it in a small bag when your hands are wet and everything. I know I've talked about this before, but that's why I love using this pack with hot tents. It's so nice to have everything packed and dry inside your bag, and then you get to do this last. All right, leave no trace as always. This is where we were. This is where the stove was. This muddy bit's where the vestibule was, where I was kind of hanging out all night. And that's where I was sleeping. And over here is where I buried the ash. So yeah, overall, really nice camp. Not the best of mornings. Bit wet, but oh well. Got a lot of stuff to dry when I get home. Alright guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I don't have too much further back. You probably can't see the road yet, but I don't know, about a quarter mile left, maybe a little bit more to get to the road. Overall, really fun camp. I always really enjoy getting out in the hot tent. Such a cozy way to camp, especially in the winter when it's cold and wet and rainy. Not ideal having the rain this morning for the pack up and everything, but it happens. So for my next camp, I'm hoping to get out back to the mountains to Snowdonia or the Lake District for a proper mountain camp. Crossing my fingers I get some snow before the winter's done. But if you have any questions or comments for this video, just leave them down below and I'll catch you on the next one. Please like, share, get outside. Later.